Hi, my name is Jordan Muskies, and I want to share with you a practice that has been really, I want to say, life-enhancing for me. And I've been doing it for about a month, and it's the practice of having an altar. Now, before I get into the details of the altar, I want to first explain my kind of religious and philosophical journey and what that's looked like and what it looks like now and how the altar has been serving me or how I've been using it. So I would consider myself secular, but that I like to use symbols and myths and archetypes as ways to tap into, work with elements of my subconscious, elements of, maybe even using it kind of as a prompt for an essay, metaphorical essay, a literal essay. But yeah, I grew up Catholic. My grandma's Catholic, Mexican family. And through other family members, also dabbled in Christianity, different forms of Christianity, different sects of Christianity. And then in my sophomore year of college, I actually dated a guy who was atheist. And that took me on this journey with the new atheist, set list of Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, Daniel Dennett, the old guard as well, some that wouldn't consider themselves atheists or existentialists, but also got into Nietzsche, Sartre, Camus, and then a little later, Fromm and Frankl, and was really working to understand what it was that I believed in. And I went from kind of Catholic Christian to atheist, and then eventually moved into more of secular humanism. And this is where I got more into Alain de Botton and his school of life and started looking at or reading books like Good Without God, Religion for Atheists. And I use the word religion because I know, I don't remember how many, but it's an absurd amount. I want to say it's like 75% or something of millennials that consider themselves, not religious, but spiritual. And I get that. I've said that too. And I kind of want to challenge the word religion and kind of taking that back. Because for me, spiritual feels a little bit more of like your connection, at least the way it seems to come across when people talk about it, is their connection to themselves, to their source, to whatever thing, higher power, energy, whatever it gets called, that they call on, speak to, pray to. And I think that's, and even if you're atheist, right, this could be the divine sense of self, the intuition, your inner voice that maybe you've ignored or not listened to. But religious, when I think of religion, right, the things that we've typically discarded, has been the dogma, the dogma, the harmful dogma, and maybe religious practices that don't mean anything to us, that don't serve us, right? Maybe certain holidays that just they don't mean anything to us anymore. And I think what's happening is, Alain de Botton talks about this, and I really feel this, is that we've secularized badly. We have this belief that now we're in this kind of post-religious world and we don't have gods and we don't need gods. But there's this TV show friends keep telling me I should watch. I haven't watched it yet, but the concept seems spot on, which is this idea that, oh, we do have gods. They're just new gods. They are gods that are, we're kind of unconscious that we're worshiping. Gods of excessive consumerism, gods of the relentless pursuit of likes on social media, gods and goddesses of transactional romance, of meaningless sex. Like it's typically strong but fleeting forms of palliatives. And you'll see this theme in Fromm's Art of Loving a lot. I love that book. And so wanting to challenge that, and as my therapist said to me, once a Catholic, always a Catholic. I've had that void of having meaningful traditions and having a community and having people that share values and this desire to connect with something beyond just the intellectual, to connect with whatever you want to call it, whether it is that intuition, that source, that spirit. And so, and the way that I've started approaching it, and one of the psychologists that I've been getting increasingly into is Carl Jung, and working with archetypes from myths all around the world. I mean, I think the West were pretty, what's the word I want to say? It's not drenched, but that's kind of it, in Greco-Roman myths. And I think you see the world of Greco-Roman myths playing out in our individual lives, in Greco-Roman and Christian biblical myths. You see those value systems pervading the way that we treat each other, the way that we think of ourselves, the way that we treat each other, and the way that we are engaging in and engaging with ecological, political, socioeconomic, romantic systems. One very obvious one is having a punitive justice system. Another one that's, ecologically, is we have dominion over the earth and treating the earth like crap. I don't know what happened to my audio in the last video, so I'm just going to clip right to my altar. Okay, so here we are with the altar. And I'm just going to go through the different pieces that are on the altar, why they're there, and how I've been working with them. So the goddesses that I've been working with have been, or are Grandmother Spider, who is a Native American myth, Hecate, which is Greco-Roman, La Loba or La Huesera, which means wolf woman or bone woman, which is more of a, I believe, like Mexican myth. So first, let's talk about Grandmother Spider and Hecate, their correspondences, and how I've been working with them. So in the back over there, you have a dream catcher and a little spider that I got at a Halloween party. But that is symbolic of her web. And in myths with Grandmother Spider, she is a creator goddess, where she's, through her web and has created the entire universe, world. In others, she is more just like a benefactor to humans. Particularly in the Cherokee myth, she is the creature that is able to go from the dark side of the earth to the light side of the earth, and to bring a piece of the sun in her clay pot when all the other animals couldn't. And that to me symbolizes this myth, this archetype that's able to traverse between the worlds of dark and light, the unconscious, the conscious, which is what Hecate also does. Hecate has her two torches. She's more of a witch type character, and she also exists in the liminal. And actually, I believe someone told me that she helped Persephone to ascend to her throne in the underworld, as well as helps her to come back and forth between the under and the I guess the living world. And that to me is symbolic of really gaining mastery of your throne in your subconscious, in your underworld, of being able to work with those dark parts and integrate them. So both Grandmother Spider and Hecate to me serve as these goddesses that are able to kind of translate between those two worlds. So I have Grandmother Spider quite literally back there, but I also have these vessels of clay. And in some myth, she actually formed humans out of clay. I also have corn. So she brought corn, brought life, and that is, if I'm writing a song, if I'm writing an essay, that is bringing life, creating humans, that's creating life. This one here I have is ginger. It's a root, which Hecate is, roots are one of her correspondences, and the root to me is sometimes when I'm creating something, I can have a tendency to maybe get away from myself or to spin out. It's a reminder to ground into who I am, and to kind of not lose faith and not lose heart, and to feel the ground beneath me. The pumpkin, it's a Native American gourd, but quite frankly, we're just in October and it's my favorite month and I just wanted it. So there's that. This one is just a little owl that I found. That is one of Hecate's, and, obviously a creature that is typically nocturnal. I think they're all nocturnal. So a reminder of that in the night. Over here, I have this bone that I found while hiking. I think it's a vertebrae, but this one reminds me of La Huesera, which literally means the bone woman, or La Loba, which is same woman, wolf woman. I first heard of her in Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes' Women Who Run with the Wolves, and this bone woman is said to find the bones of wolves and to sing over them and to turn them back into live creatures. Or in other myths, I think she finds a woman who died in the desert of a broken heart and sings over her bones, and she turns back into a wolf and then into a wild woman. So awakening that wild woman and setting her free. Here I have two stones that I found while walking around. I really like this. I like them both together just to hold them, but I really like this one. It's smooth, but also kind of has this web type shape on it. So sometimes just holding that during a chant or a prayer, or, thinking of something. This one connects me a little bit more with Grandmother Spider, physically, tangibly. This egg, actually a friend of mine gave me for my birthday, and it's a snake skin egg. And she told me this myth of Lilith being, I guess, one of Adam's original, in the book, the Bible, being his actually original partner, and then she leaves paradise to kind of go, I guess, experience the world on her own, and ends up becoming a consort of Hades. And there's like a whole myth there. But the reason she gave it to me was because of, I'm clearly not as kind of trained up on that myth, but I really liked the concept of snakes and how they are different with how I grew up versus how I'm encountering them in more indigenous myth. And I think this is a really great example of how myth, depending on your relationship to a thing in that myth, how it can color your relationship to other things that's really cryptic, but I'll just get to it. In in the Bible and how I grew up, right, the snake was forever condemned to um, slither on the ground, right, as a form of punishment. And so in that myth, that's saying that to be connected to the ground, to the dirt, is dirty, is a punishment. It's, I guess, farther away from God. Where in indigenous culture, the snake is actually considered really sacred. And it's considered sacred because it touches the ground, because its belly is connected to the earth. It's an intuitive and wise creature. And, zoom forward 500 years, imagine what the world might look like if we had a different interpretation of what it meant to be connected to the earth, that as opposed to it being dirty and something to be ashamed of, it's something that makes you sacred and wise. So totally different relationship with the earth that we're on. I have these two dishes here, which are these offering bowls and libation kind of vessels, which that one's more associated with Hecate, but that helps me with this concept of abundance and giving. I do have this kind of Mexican belt cloth up here. And this just helps to connect me with my heritage, but it's also weaving, which is grandmother Spider's specialty. And yeah, lots of symbols up here. This book is something that I don't really want to open it for the video. It's something that I write in the middle of a chant or in the middle of whatever comes to me. Sometimes I draw on it with friends, but it's just a whatever happens comes to mind can go in that book. And then I guess the last thing back there is actually just a postcard that a friend of mine gave me when she was leaving when I was up in Boston. I think it's Joan of Arc or some Joan of Arc type character. Quite frankly, it just reminds me of her. And that's really precious to me, and it just reminds me of our friendship. But also, like, Joan of Arc's a badass, so she gets to make an appearance. The mirror is interesting. I was looking at different what's it called? Like, what's the word? Not structures. What's it called when you... Statues. Wow. Different like statues to put on the back. And I just couldn't find any. A friend and I were talking about how like, a lot of these goddesses are depicted and they're like overly sexual and very, I just couldn't find one that I liked. And I was in Goodwill and I found this mirror, and I actually thought, one, it's a beautiful kind of mirror and background, but this idea of taking gods and goddesses unto ourselves, that we are ultimately that divine source. I thought having that mirror is a reminder that while you have all these other, that fire's hot, all these other elements around you to remind you of symbolically what you're tapping into, at the end of it all, like, you're the source, I'm the source. We take our mother, our father, our God unto ourselves. We become that divine source. So I actually thought that was pretty appropriate. Yeah, that's, I think all I'm going to cover in this one. But yeah, let me flip this around. Oh, I can't. Let me start a new video. Cool. So hopefully that was helpful or useful in some way. Hopefully that gave you some insight maybe into how you can use elements of an altar to enhance a secular practice, or not. I mean, you could be religious too, and having these elements to work with, to smell, to touch, to hold, having a rock to ground yourself in that sensation, or having fragrances. I think any senses that you can captivate while in a meditation, in an encountering with elements of your conscious and unconscious, I think just enhance that practice even more. And it makes it magical and kind of fun. makes it really fun. So yeah, that's my practice with my altar. And yeah, I'm excited to see what comes of it. Oh, also, in another video, to keep myself honest, to connect to this one, I will be sharing a song that I came up with one morning while working with my altar, and it has to do with Grandmother Spider, and I really love it. It's really simple. It's a beautiful song slash chant, and I will figure out how to link that. I think it's like in the description or in the video or something. And yeah, I'll upload that next time. But until then, thank you so much.